What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we're going to preview the 2024 schedule for Alabama. I'm going to break it all down. Of course, the schedules came out last night. Before we get into 2024, let's look back at the 2023 schedule. So this is the schedule for Alabama this past season, of course, playing Texas in the non-conference and South Florida, which turned out to be a tougher game than you maybe would have thought. Of course, Alabama just trying to kind of figure their way out early in the season. And really, when you look at the schedule, even all the way, the Texas A&M game was close, the Arkansas game was close. They were losing at halftime against Tennessee. That's when the flip seemed to switch. Halftime of that Tennessee game, they played really well against LSU, against Kentucky. Of course, had the scare against Auburn, but that's the Iron Bowl, and then winning the SEC championship. But you look at this schedule, it was a tough schedule. But I talked about it in the preseason. Having Tennessee and LSU at home would be big. And let's be honest, if they're on the road in those two games, do they win both of them? I do not know. Tennessee, again, up pretty big at halftime. LSU, that game was close. Most of that game was close. And so having those games at home definitely help. We'll take a look at this schedule and see if maybe home field advantage could make a difference in Alabama's season in 2024. This is the schedule, so every game here, and they have really good spots for their bye weeks. We'll get into the game by game, but let's look at the non-conference. They're going to play Western Kentucky, South Florida, on the road at Wisconsin and Mercer. Not too tough of a non-conference schedule there. Wisconsin could be a tricky game. It is on the road, but you figure that Alabama will be clearly a better team than Wisconsin, even though maybe the Badgers are starting to build something there with Luke Fickell. But yeah, I think that this non-conference schedule is very manageable for Alabama. They should be favored in every single game that they play. And then we go to the home and away. So their home schedule: Western Kentucky, South Florida, Mercer, Georgia, South Carolina, Missouri, and Auburn. Good to have the Iron Bowl at home, obviously, and then the big one against Georgia. That's going to be, maybe the game of the year, and getting that game at home is going to be huge. Missouri is a program on the rise, had a great season this year. You get that game at home, so you get some big games at home. South Carolina's a game that Alabama should probably be able to take care of business in that one, even on the road. But that is a tough place to play, so you don't have to go there, and so really works out well for them with this home schedule. But take a look at the road schedule. When you look at this, first of all, you say, wow, well, they get Georgia, Missouri, Auburn at home. That's good. They get a lot of their tougher games at home. But the schedule is tough because you've still got all these games. Again, we talked about Wisconsin. They get Vanderbilt on the road. That shouldn't be a problem. But then Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma. Those will be three tricky games on the road. And LSU and Oklahoma both come in late in the season. So a tough schedule overall when you just look at the teams. This is a really tough schedule, but I think the way that it sets up, it's not too bad. And let's get back to the full schedule here. So they'll get Western Kentucky first, then South Florida, then on the road at Wisconsin. After that road game, they get a bye week before playing Georgia. So that is a great spot for your first bye week. Remember, every team will get 2 byes in 2024. So you get a bye week before Georgia. Then you get Vanderbilt after that. So after a tough game, you get to kind of recover and play Vanderbilt. Should be a pretty easy win. South Carolina, I don't think it's going to be too tough, especially playing at home. And so you've got 2 easier games before a tough road game against Tennessee. Now that one, we'll see how good Tennessee is next season, but it's a rivalry game. They beat them a couple of years ago, last time in Knoxville. So that one will definitely be an emotional game, even if it's not too much of a challenge for Alabama. It'll be a big game. And then there's that tricky game after that against Missouri. But again, good news, the game is at home. So I'm not really seeing anything here on the schedule where you got back-to-back really tough tests, at least not yet. We'll get there in just a second. They get their second bye week before LSU. Again, a perfect spot after Tennessee and Missouri. Then you get a bye week before a road game against LSU. Love that spot for that bye week. LSU going to be tough, always tough to win in Baton Rouge. And then they get Mercer after that. So again, after their, I'm looking at Georgia and LSU maybe as the toughest games on the schedule. Again, it's early. It's hard to say what these teams are going to look like. But they get a bye week before Georgia and a bye week before LSU. And then look at the week after. They get Vanderbilt and Mercer. So I'm telling you, the way these games set up, it's really ideal for Alabama, even though the overall schedule is tough. They get Oklahoma on the road after that, and then Auburn in the Iron Bowl. So back-to-back games, you're looking at 2 tough ones there, Oklahoma and Auburn. Good news is you get Auburn at home. just like with Tennessee and Missouri back-to-back, road game, then a home game. But there's really not any super tough stretches here because of where the bye weeks are on the schedule. I mean, I guess I would say from Georgia to Missouri, that's going to be the toughest stretch without a bye week, those 5 games. But you do get Vanderbilt and South Carolina in there, so that's not too bad. And then again, looking at the back-to-backs, Tennessee, Missouri, Oklahoma, Auburn, those will be 2 tough back-to-backs there. But overall, a very manageable schedule for Alabama. Yes, the teams, if you just look at the teams, it's a tough schedule. But the way they set it up, where the teams fall on the schedule, I think it's ideal, and it couldn't be much better for Alabama, honestly, in terms of where the games are, except maybe Oklahoma and Mercer back-to-back, or excuse me, Oklahoma and Auburn back-to-back late in the season. That could be a little bit tricky there, but again, good news is the Iron Bowl's at home this year. So overall schedule for Alabama, tough schedule, but it sets up really well with where the teams are on the schedule.